Shalom, Yahweh Hashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatha. This lesson is me part 2 to the previous lesson I posted up, or video about Biden starting these wars. Because, and I mentioned, it was, I think I end off in Isaiah 50 and 14. So let's go to that real quick. 50. Okay, it wasn't Isaiah 50, 14, it was 51. No, hold on. Arrows. Because it's talking about Biden basically getting these wars started. And the reason why I mentioned that was because of the whole treaty or policy he has, the Iranian policy. Right? Oh, that was Jeremiah, Slakia. Okay. Okay, perfect. I actually wasn't going to go into this. Okay, I'll read 51 because this is what we're going into. Okay, so Jeremiah 51:11. Make bright the arrows, gather the shields. The Lord Yahweh hath raised up the spirit of the kings of the Medes, for his device is against Babylon to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord, the vengeance of his temple. Right? So who are the Medes? Who are the Medes? Right? If you don't know, the Medes are the Russians. Right? The Medo-Persian Empire was a joint effort or a joint empire with the Russians and the Persians, or the Medes and the Persians, right? Or the Rus or the Iranians, right? Because another name for Russia was Rus or Rosh. And I'm going to show that today. Okay. So Madeh, Media or Medes or Madeh, Middle Land, a people descended from the son of Japheth and who inhabit the territory of Media. Right? So the Medes. And you see the Medes and the Persians, or the Medo-Persian, or the Medes and the Persians, right? And the scriptures a lot. So I just wanted to go into that. So, right? And Gog and Magog, and also in the scriptures, is talking about Gog and Magog. Gog was the king of Magog. Magog was the land. From my understanding, from what I know, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the king of the land Magog, right? So that's also Russia. Okay. So I found this. Let's go back. I typed in, are the Medes Russians? Right, and there's the first one that popped up. And you remember the scripture we read, so we'll go back to that. Who is Russia in Bible prophecy? Russia has been a major player in the end time world events. With World War I, it was Bolshevik Revolution in 1917 that opened the way for Russia to become communist. Okay, I'm not going to read this whole thing because, I mean, there's another article I want to get into. And I'm going to put the link for this because this is actually very important. Okay. So, okay, the Assyrian historian Sayce notes that the names of the peoples called the Tubla and Muska were found in ancient inscriptions in northern Iraq. The races of the Old Testament, I guess that's referring to the book. Herodotus also mentions these people together as the Moshki and the Tibereni. Book 394. The geographer Strabo, writing in the early 1st century AD, discusses the Moshki Mountains and extending from Lower Armenia and into Albania. Strabo, referring to the book again. Strabo did not do much research north of this area. These people groups eventually migrated north into the nation we call Russia. right? In history, one of the nations in Russia proper was in history. I'll read it again. In history, one of the nations in Russia's this is a spy typo. Russia's proper name was called the Muscovite nation. Meshik is an ancient name for Moscow. So Meshik, if you go in Tubal. Okay, right here. So there's the brothers. Meshik. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. Right, so Magog is referred to the land of Gog. So land of Gog, would have to be the son, right? Who's actually the king. So I just want to bring that out. Meshik, or Meshik, drawing out, son of Japheth, grandson of Noah, and progenitor of peoples to the north of Israel, right? Descendants of Meshik, often mentioned in connection with Tubal and Magog and other northern nations, including the Moshki, a people on the borders of Kolshi and Armenia. Okay. I read this again. In history, one of the nations in Russia proper was called the Muscovite nation. Meshik is an ancient name for Moscow, which is in the region of Muscovy and sits on the Moscow River. Meshik in Hebrew is simply MSH, Meshk, which could be pronounced any number of ways over time. Tubal refers to the middle part of Russia, in which is a city named Tobolsk. The city sits on the Tobol River. So Tubal, let's see what that name means. Thou shalt be brought. Son of Japheth and grandson of Noah. Okay. Now they're always mentioned together, right? Rosh is a word in Hebrew which means head or chief. Okay. So let's see where Rosh is mentioned. Talk about the sons of Benjamin. Head, a son of Benjamin. That's what the name means, though. Now, Ros and Rus have been names used for Western Russia, Eastern Europe for over 1,000 years, which is also true because you have the Rus Vikings. And it's funny, because Spirit, I was watching a show called Vikings with Ragnar and his sons, right? And there was one in season 6, Ivor, if you watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. But basically, one of the Vikings, he fled to a place called Rus, right? And the Rus had Vikings there that came from Scandinavia and settled in Rus, right? And we know the Vikings to be Israelites. So these Israelites came from Scandinavia at the time, where they settled there from where they came back in the past. I remember researching this, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But basically that these Vikings went to a place called Rus and they became the Rus Vikings. So Rus was a name for Russia, right? So it's coming back here. So it's being proven. And you can research the Rus Vikings. I'll probably make a video about that because that's actually very interesting. Ros and Rus have been names used for Western Russia, Eastern Europe for over 1,000 years. This is where the name Russia actually comes from. See also nations like Belarus. This evidence allows us to pair Rosh, Meshk, and Tubal together, as they are all mentioned beside each other in Ezekiel 38 and 6 as dwelling in far north. So let's go to that, Ezekiel 38 and 6. Okay. I believe that's what it said, right? Okay, let's read up here. Ezekiel 38:1, and the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Mesh and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Now, I know sometimes in scriptures they actually take out some stuff, right? This is the KJV. Let me try something. Rush in KJV, just to see maybe, maybe they took it out. No. So this person, basically, they're saying, I'll just read it. Rosh is translated as chief, head, or top in dozens of places in all translations. It denotes the most important or highest position, chief or top, in regards to status, and head in regards to an anatomy. One might be tempted to translate the word as Rosh in order to strengthen the prophecy concerning Russia, as suggested by the mention of Mesh and Tubal. However, the most plain and honest translation seems to be a chief prince, since the subject matter of the passage concerns Gog, a chief commander of a coalition of invading nations. If Yahweh intended to refer to Russia, it may be doubtful that he would have transliterated the name using a common word for chief in context where chief is a fitting meaning. That's not true. The Most High uses codes all the time. Right? There's ancient maps that show, because everyone, and then you can say, I mean, let's say that is true. Like, you can, it's just a belief then, right? Because they're saying it's not in the scriptures where they use the word rush for mentioning mesh, right? I'm trying to find where I was before. Okay, here we are. Okay. For a note, the Russians and other Eastern Europeans have another biblical nation associated with them, the Medes and the Persians. Okay. Right? Even if you want to say Russia is not it, there's still more information to back up the claim, right? We're an alliance of two nations between 600 and 334 BC. Herodotus mentions that they had colonies in Eastern Europe around 400 BC. The Medo-Persians were defeated by Alexander the Great in 334 BC. At this time, the Medes began to migrate. In Strabo's account of geography, he mentions the Medes alongside the Moshki. These people dwelt together. Pliny the Elder in the 1st century noted that some of the Medes had migrated to the Don River, which is one of the major rivers of southern Russia. About 9 years ago, Russia and Iran began formal cooperation with each other, especially in the area of military development. The symbol for Russia is the bear, which is the same animal used to describe the Medo-Persian Empire of ancient times. See Daniel 7, 1 and 10. We'll go there. Daniel 7. It's Daniel 7, 1 to 10. Okay, let's read it. Daniel 7, 1. The first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions of his head upon his bed. Then he wrote the dream and told the sum of the matters. Daniel spake and said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the four winds of the heavens strove upon the great sea, and the four great beasts came up from the sea, diverse one from another. The first was like a lion, and had eagle's wings. I beheld till the wings thereof were plucked, and I was lifted up from the earth, and made stand upon the feet as a man, and a man's heart was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second like to a bear, and it raised up itself on one side, and it had three ribs in the mouth of it, between the teeth of it, and they said thus unto it, Arise, devour much flesh. After this I beheld, lo, another like a leopard, which had upon the back of it four wings of a fowl. Keep reading. Okay, so basically you read about the bear. So, right, now I was talking about the bear because the bear was a symbol for the Medo-Persian Empire, which is also a symbol for Russia. Right. So that is enough. There's a lot of clues here, right? Right. If Russia's symbol is still the bear today, that would mean they were part of the Medo-Persian Empire, and they weren't the Persians, so they would have to be the Medes. Right. I mean, there's a joint partnership, so to speak, with the Medo-Persian Empire. The bear in Daniel has one side raised up. It's just like for example, the eagle, right? The Romans, right? The Romans animal was the eagle, and today it's the Americans' animal. Same thing, right? There's no new thing under the sun. The bear in Daniel has one side raised up. In ancient times, the Persians had a stronger control of this alliance. And it's also true. In modern times, the Medes, Western Russians, have the upper hand. Yes, it's true. I mean, most times it's about balance. The Persians were in control at one time. Now it's the Medes. And you know the Persians were in control one time. You know about their great army. If you watch the movie 300, right? Leonidas and the 300 Spartans fought against the Medo-Persian Empire. The Persians were more in control. Where you had Xerxes, right? Now it's the Medes, the Russians, are the ones who have the upper hand. They are raised up, and it makes sense, which is why they still have the symbol of the bear today, right? That's why one side is raised. But they're joined back together again. See, in the beginning of this article, it said about 9 years ago, Russia and Iran became formal cooperation with each other, especially in the area of military development, right? So I'll go back to the bottom. They are raised up when these nations agreed upon formal cooperation. It was bringing back this ancient alliance. We see from these brief explanations of history that Russia is referred to as Rosh, Mesh, and Tubal, and also as the descendants of the Medes. I mean, the word Rush means head, right? Let's go back to it again. The name Rush, I should say word. Rush means head. Okay, so head. I want to look at country-wise. Ancient. No, that's not what I was looking for. There we go. I was looking at this earlier. Right, so it just goes based off the scriptures, what the scriptures were saying. See if this will work for us. No. Okay, let's see if I can zoom it. Okay, so we're gonna try something else. Bear with me. Okay, we just click on it like this. Okay, good. So you can see Gog, right? Now it's saying Gog, that should be right. I was saying Gog was the man, Gog and Magog. He could have called it Magog, and he could have been actually the name. But Magog is this part right here. Rosh Tubal Mesh, right? So you can see right here. It said the Mesh was northern of Israel. Let's see if I can find a map for that. Oh, Slovakia. Gomer. Right, there's a lot of different maps. Magog is basically the whole of Russia, right? That's one name for it. Now, who knows which map is right, but they all still point that Magog, Gog, Rush, Tubal, Meshch is in the land of Russia. Right? Wish I can find the right, correct one. Here's another one. Right, Rosh, Magog, Persia, Meshch. So this article. So that was that article, right? Where is it? Oh, this is a totally different one. Okay, so that article was just so I can find it for you. Nope. Okay, here we go. So I'll put a link to this. Now there's another one. Right, and the reason why they're saying Rush is Russia, because it makes sense, right? In the sense that Rush means head, right? So head is Russia. Then Mesh means middle, and Tubal, right? There you go. And so on and therefore. Right, so right. So now I'm not going to go into. There's a lot of different articles, a lot of different information. I just wanted to read that one. Now the reason why I read that is because of that video I made not too long ago, yesterday. But I can just prove my point. Russia. Actually, I would say war games with Russia and Iran. Yeah, here we go. I remember watching this or reading about this last year. Russia, China, and Iran. This is Financial Times. Russia, China, and Iran launch Gulf of Oman war games. U.S. rivals project. So you hear that? U.S. rivals. They're rivals of the U.S. They're enemies of the U.S. Russia, China, and Iran. More importantly, Russia and Iran. Mede and Persia. right? It's just all over again. U.S. rivals project increased Middle East influence. First joint naval exercises. Right, I remember seeing this. I was like, oh, we're almost here. All right, and I'm not going to read all of this. It's a lot of information, but just basically just shows that they already have the Medo-Persian Empire is back again, in a sense, when it comes to military might. Right? Now, also, go to Isaiah. We're going to go back to the scriptures. Isaiah 13. And we're going to read from 17. Okay, right here. Isaiah 13:17. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, which shall not regard silver. So the Medes, the Russians, they're not going to regard silver. So any money you try to pay them off of, they're not going to take it. Any type of currency, they're not going to take it. And as for gold, they shall not delight in it. There you go. Gold, they're not going to delight in it. Their bows, which is their missiles, also shall dash the young men to pieces. So they're going to blow them up. And they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. Yeah, because they're going to blow up everybody. They don't care if you have kids, they're married, they're pregnant. They don't care. Right? And Babylon, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees, excellency, shall be as when Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. Right? So that's that. And then we're going to go to Jeremiah again. 51. I'll read it again. Make bright the arrows, gather the shield. The Lord Yahweh hath raised up the spirit of the kings and the Medes. Right? For his device is against Babylon, to destroy it, because it is the vengeance of the Lord Yahweh, the vengeance of his temple. So right here you see, clear as day. Where does it say it? Oh yeah. Russia, China, and Iran launch Gulf of Oman war games. U.S. rivals. They're rivals. So let's go into the word rivals. You don't know what the word rivals means. Rival. 1570s, from Latin rivalis, a rival, adversary in love, neighbor, originally of the same brook, from rivus, brook, one who is in pursuit of the same object as another, right? And their pursuit is a world domination. The sense evolution seems to be based on the competitiveness of neighbors, one who uses the same stream, or one on the opposite side of the stream, a secondary sense in Latin, sometimes English, associate, companion in duty. Be the rival of, be in competition with. The contestant you hope to defeat. Challenger, competitor. Right? So they're competitors. They're challenging each other. Right? When you challenge people in war, it's only one person's going to win. Right? If you're competing with someone, only one person's going to win. And this is war. So I'm trying to take your land, you're trying to take my land. I'm trying to be the superpower, you're trying to be the superpower. We're going to fight. Right? Right? And we're going to jump to 28. Okay, let's read 27. Set ye up a standard in the land, blow the trumpet among the nations, prepare the nations against her. Call together against her the kingdoms of Ararat, Mini, and Ashenaz. Appoint a captain against her. Cause the horses to come up as the rough caterpillars. Prepare against her the nations with the kings of the Medes, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. Right? So basically, you can see that as if you go, right, the captains thereof, and all the rulers thereof, and all the land of his dominion. Right? So Russia owns a lot on land. Right? Right? It's basically calling out everybody to come against Babylon. Right? And the land shall tremble and sorrow, for every purpose of the Lord Yahweh shall be performed against Babylon, to make the land of Babylon a desolation without inhabitant. Right? So you can see, if you have most sides dealing with you, you can see that the Medes are the Russians, right? Persians, right, are the Iranians. You didn't know that. That's another name for Persians. It's Iran. Another name for Iran is Persia, right? And yeah, so that's already happening. That's already happening. It's been happening. It's about to pop off. So that's why in my first video I was mentioning that Biden is about to pop off the war, because Iran, the Iran policy, and Biden's all about Israel, right? Not the Israelites, but he's about Israel, where the Israelis live, right? And Iran is an enemy or rival, right? Because when you're in competition with someone, that person's your enemy because you're against them, right? You're not for that person, right? Right. So Iran is a rival with U.S. Also, Russia is. They're also rivals, and you even have China in there too, right? So I hope this lesson was edifying. I'd like to close out by saying, Kahala Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone, and to the hopeful elect, pushing his word in truth and sincerity across the four corners of the earth, death and destruction to his wicked kingdom, and the two-thirds as well. Kwam Yasharella, Abal Dabal, Shalom.